ladies and gentlemen, for the next session on the topic Responding to Halal Science and Innovation at Global Sustainability on Ecology, Economy, and Equity. We have an honorable speakers with us for this session. For the first one, Professor Dr. Nazima Hamid, Head of Food Science and Microbiology, Auckland University, New Zealand. Next one, Professor Dr. Mian Nadim Riaz, Professor of Food Diversity, Food Science and Technology Department, Texas A&M University, USA. And Dr. Najwa Yanya Santi Warakun, Researcher at Halal Science Center, Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand. And Moderator, Professor Dr. Zahari Ismail. May I introduce moderator for this session, Professor Dr. Zahari Ismail, Professor, School of Pharmaceutical Science, University Science, Malaysia, area of expertise, herbal and halal products. He has many awards and honors, such as Fellow Malaysian Academy of Science, Scientific Member of Malaysian Fatwa Council, appointed to the Malaysian Herbal Councils, and Chairman Halal Pharmaceutical Standards and Herbal Standards. Please welcome Professor Dr. Zahari Ismail to deliver the session seminar and introduce all speakers in this session, please.
Thank you very much to the chairperson. I'm honored to be asked to chair this session, and I'd like to say my thanks to the organizing committee, and of course I have to make sure that I can moderate this session as best as I could. I think all the speakers, they were introduced briefly just now, but I think I need to give a more detailed explanation or briefing on the speakers themselves. So I'll follow the sequence that is in the program, and I think the first speaker would be Professor Dr. Nazima Hamid. Her area of expertise is food science and food biotechnology, and she has got a PhD in food science at the University of Strathclyde, and master's also at University of Strathclyde, and a bachelor's science in University of Nottingham. So since in the program we were not given the title of the talk that is going to be given by the speaker, so I will offer Prof. Dr. Nazima to take this opportunity to deliver her lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zahari. Many thanks for the introduction. What I'll do now is to share my screen with you. And start with presentation. All right, can you all see my screen?
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So the title today is Professor Zahari, because you were not given this title earlier. I'm going to talk about halal cultured meat perception among Saudi Muslim consumers. And this was a research that I carried out with the help of a master's student from Saudi Arabia, and she is Bashair Al-Nazi, and she graduated last year with first-class honors. So I'm very, very proud today to share her research with all of you today. So, cultured meat. It's also known as in vitro meat, clean meat, and this is meat that is produced in the laboratory. So it is a big thing currently, according to analysts at the Barclays investment bank in London, there is a huge market for meat alternatives. And this could be worth a lot of money. Okay, you can see there nearly 104 billion pounds within the next decade, or accounts for 10% of 1.4 trillion global meat industry. There are several companies in the world, mainly in America, that has led this cell-based meat revolution. Mosa Meat is actually a Dutch company, but Memphis Meat is American. Elif Farms is a big name as well. It's based in it's an Israeli-based company, and Blue Nalu and Pinless Foods, they produce fish type meat, which is cultured, not red meat. And just recently, you can see they have this Just Meat here, and that's again an American company that's just recently launched chicken nuggets, which are cultured meat, and it is being marketed now in Singapore. So why is there a drive towards producing cultured meat? Well, you can see that the topic of the conference revolves around sustainability. So, this is the reason why it's been growing. With cultured meat production, you actually use between 7 to 45% lower energy use. There is also lower greenhouse gas emissions, and it's lowered by 78 to 96%. Of course, because you are growing the cells in the lab, there is, of course, lower land use, lower water use. And that is all important. And I know that because I live in New Zealand, and a lot of the New Zealand economy revolves around meat. And there is a lot of issues with pollution at the moment. All right, but there are potential barriers to eating cultured meat, and most of the time, this is a research carried out by Wilkes and Phillips in America, and they think they have carried out this research, and they've shown that it is the taste or appeal of the product. When you grow something in the lab, it may not taste or be appealing as something that's grown naturally. And also, of course, there's ethical concern as well. And the big thing is price. So currently, it is very expensive to be buying a meat like this. But later on, it's going to get cheaper for sure. Then there's health concerns, safety concerns, religious reasons. So this isn't covered much, and that's what drove us to carry out the research that we did among Muslim consumers. Because with Muslims, the religious reason is really a big thing. And you can see in this American study, it's only 3%, but that's because you don't have that religious reason to doubt, when you're eating cultured meat. Environmental concern and economic impacts only accounted for 1% or less. So this is just showing you results that they obtained with a study in America. So a lot of the work has been done in America. There's been some done in Belgium. There are also some done with consumers in China, India, and very little, interestingly, among the Muslim population. So based on the results that's been carried out, in other countries, but not within the Muslim population, there are drivers of that are in favor of cultured meat acceptance. And you can see that all here, all right? Environmental issues, it's a big thing. Animal welfare, many people moving towards being vegetarians, vegans, or eating less meat. So, a lot of people are concerned about that. And you can see good health and so on. So what you see here on the left are factors that are positively affecting the acceptance of artificial meat. What you see on the right, like unnaturalness of the product, concerns about human health, the sensory traits. So these are the negative drivers that make people less likely to accept cultured meat. So the research objective of this research was to determine the perception of halal cultured meat by Saudi Arabia Muslim consumers. And I mentioned halal here because if the meat is not halal in the first place, it wouldn't be consumed in the first place. So we assume that it is halal. And I'll talk a bit about the important things that should be considered when cultured meat is manufactured and be marketed for the halal market. So what I used in this research is I adopted the theory of planned behavior to understand the behavioral intention of Saudi Muslim consumers to consume halal cultured meat. We carried out an online survey and we used partial squares path modeling to validate the model, and we considered parameters like goodness of fit, Cronbach's alpha, Dillon-Goldstein's rho, to assure us that the overall model was adequate. We also looked at the internal validity of the variables, and we carried out univariate and multivariate analysis using the RStudio package. So this is what the theory of planned behavior is. So it was actually developed by Ajizan, who's Turkish, and they found that you had three factors that contributed to intention of purchase and eventually behavior of the consumers. So the three important factors that contribute to purchase or consumption intention are attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control. And we adopted this model in the study. And in this case, we had the three factors: the attitude, the subjective norms. We had perceived behavioral control in terms of perceived control and perceived availability. And all these factors were then examined to determine how the behavioral intention to eat and buy halal cultured meat was influenced. Before I go on, I'd just like to talk about what the factors are. So what is attitude? Attitude is the psychological inclination expressed by the level of satisfaction or guilt of a particular activity. So in this case, the activity is the intention to consume halal cultured meat. Subjective norm. So we know when we are eating, we get all these social pressures to eat something. It could be from the family, it could be from your friends, and so those are the social pressures that could affect your behavior. Finally, there's perceived behavioral control, whereby that is defined as the perception of the extent to which the behavior is considered to be controllable. And there are three control factors. In the study that we carried out, we just looked at it in terms of perceived control and perceived availability. As well as you can see, there were some perceived barriers that were examined as well. So this is the socio-demographic characteristics of the sample. So we had in total 363 participants, and most of them were Saudi. And we had quite a good balance of male and female consumers. And you can see some demographics on income there. In this case, most of the respondents were educated, and the age were between 18 to 30 years of age. You can see here that most of the respondents are meat eaters. So what we did was we had questions under these different variables, so these different factors. So attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control. We had questions, and respondents actually indicated whether they agreed or disagreed with the different statements. And I'll show you what the results are more in detail in the following slides. But what you see here is that most of the means are above 4, and that is good. So you can see that attitude, perceived behavioral control, and behavioral intent to eat and buy halal cultured meat has means of more than 4, and that is good. We looked at KMO as well, because that tells you if your sampling size is good enough or not, and you can see they're all above 5. So the sample numbers that we had in the study was sufficient, more than sufficient. In terms of Cronbach alpha, it tells you the validity of the model, and it's good to have any numbers between 0 to 1. So the validity of the models created in this study were, in fact, quite adequate. We looked at the inter-item correlation for the measured constructs, and you can see that they are all more than 0.5. Yeah, and you can see here with perceived behavioral control, we had quite a high correlation, and all these correlations were significant at an alpha level of less than 0.05. So we then went on creating a model for this, and we carried out partial least square path modeling. And this allowed us to see how these 3 factors of influence behavioral intention to eat or consume halal cultured meat. And you can see that they're all significant, all right? And you can see that the beta coefficient is indicated here. And attitude, you have the lowest beta coefficient. But if you look at perceived behavioral control, there's a really high beta coefficient. So really perceived behavioral control did influence the behavioral intention to eat halal cultured meat quite largely, okay? But it doesn't mean that attitude and subjective norm didn't. It's just that it did, and the results were significant, but those 2 factors were influencing the behavior to a lesser extent. These are the questions, and you can see that we used a 7-point Likert scale between 1 and 7, where 1 strongly disagree and 7 strongly agree. So anything that is more than 4 is showing that the respondents somewhat agreed to those statements. And it's quite interesting. This is a study carried out with Muslim consumers, and you can see that they will not buy cultured meat if the cell is taken from live animals. So you can see that they know something about this, and they would not buy cultured meat if the cell is taken from dead animals. Okay, but you can see the way the animals, whether the cells are taken from animals that are slaughtered, is an important thing when you deal with Muslim consumers, because you don't ask these questions to non-Muslim consumers. So with Muslim consumers, these are very, very important. And you can see the things to consider before you can market cultured meat. And you can see here, most of the results have a mean of more than 4. So they somewhat agreed to these statements. So that's why attitude was in fact a significant factor that influenced behavioral intention to consume halal cultured meat. You can see that there's some worry about the use of the new technology, okay, like any new technology. And you can see that that's a 5-year mean of 5. So people feel very strongly about the use of a new technology. But there's also the factor of healthiness and safety and price as well. So this is quite similar to other studies in other countries. In terms of subjective norm, you look at how people around you influence your behavioral intention, and you can see that the family plays a big role. So if your family eats cultured meat, it's more likely that you agree that you will eat cultured meat. But you can see with a mean of 5 here, if the Islamic Food Authority confirms that cultured meat is halal, you will definitely get the consumers consuming it. Perceived behavioral control. And you can see here again, most of them have a mean of more than 4. So they agree with most of the statements here, except for perhaps the statement, if the cultured meat is available, I would buy it tomorrow. No, with Muslim consumers, we think a lot more, and we wouldn't go out and buy it just like that. There are a lot of considerations. All right, so you can see here, it's very important. The one with the highest mean, the consumers wants assurance that the cultured meat is obtained from animals that has gone through the Islamic slaughtering process before purchasing it. And then again, there's the health advantages, high food safety, a halal logo. So that's important. And you know, it's more than what the other researchers have found, because most of the studies carried out on the perception of cultured meat has mainly been with non-Muslim consumers. I'll just talk a bit about it, and in terms of discussing some of the results, I would like to share with you some of previous work that people have published. But this is really how cultured meat is produced. Usually, it's the tissue is taken from the animal, the stem cells are extracted, and what happens is you have to think about whether the cells are extracted from a live or dead animal. And basically, the cells are grown, and you get the flesh forming, and you get your meat. Yeah, but without bones, just the meat. I like to share this paper on the Islamic perspective of cultured meat, because from the survey that we carried out, we found that most of the people were concerned about the source of the cells. And this study, what I'm sharing with you now, is from a study from Malaysian researchers, Hamdan et al., and they did this in Journal of Religion and Health, and they have mentioned that the cells must be obtained from animals that have been halal slaughtered. Stem cells, adult stem cells are other cells that can be used, but again here you have to obtain the cells from halal slaughtered animals. Marine life is okay, because that is permissible. So, and the use of culture medium. Okay, so that's just some things that are important to consider when going about having this cultured meat for Muslim consumers. I won't go into this a lot. You can have a read of this paper. Another thing about safety I'd like to talk about is that was a big issue among the Muslim consumers in Saudi Arabia, and they would safety is a big thing, and because it's grown in the lab, you don't have the problem of contamination by E. coli, Salmonella, or Campylobacter, like with conventional meat. And because you don't get animals raised in confined spaces, there's no need for vaccination, so you don't have to worry about antibiotics and all that. But you have to. Another thing that a lot of consumers are concerned is what happens if I eat this cultured meat, because it's genetic. It's there's the process of cell culture that can result in unexpected biological mechanisms. And how will it affect your health if you consume in vitro meat? So that's a big thing. So there's a bit of fear about consuming cultured meat. Safety again, antibiotic resistance. I'll just go through this really quick, but you can see there's a similar study carried out in Korea, and they looked at ethical viewpoint, food safety, initial reaction, and these are different. This is just a different model, but they looked at plant-based meat as well as cultured meat. But in our study, we just focused on cultured meat. But it's really, really important to use a proper model when carrying out this sort of studies. A lot of studies on cultured meat do not adopt model, so it's just basically the one in Korea that they looked at some models here, but I've adopted the theory of plant behavior, and it worked quite well. So in the end, we found that there was indeed a significant and positive relationship between attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control when it comes to behavioral intention to eat halal cultured meat. In conclusion, there is a strong correlation between the three factors investigated: attitudes, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control. But amongst the three, perceived behavior control influence consumers' intention towards consumption of halal cultured meat more than even attitude or subjective norm. You can see that the Muslim consumers in Saudi Arabia were concerned about the health, safety, the halal status, and the source of cells used in the production of cultured meat. So I hope that more of us work together and collaborate to carry out a research like this, so that people are aware of what are the important factors that would influence Muslim consumers' perception of cultured meat. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Nazima. I think that was a very interesting presentation. And I'm wondering whether are we going to start a Q&A, or do we leave it to the end? Secretariat? Well, for the Q&A also, we don't have the questions yet. So I think we will proceed with the second speaker. And the second speaker is Prof. Dr. Mian Nadim Riaz. He's a professor of food diversity, food science and technology at the Texas A&M University. And his area of expertise is food science and food technology and halal food production. He got a PhD in food science at the University of Maine in USA, and also masters in Pakistan, Faisalabad, and also BS honors at Faisalabad. So without further ado, I request Professor Mian to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. First of all, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and thank you very much, organizing committee, for giving me the opportunity to give this talk. And I will be talking on basically the role of science in halal food production and certification. How does science play a very important role? What is science? Basically, it is an intellectual and practical activity which composes of a systematic study of structures and behaviors of physical and natural world through observation. Therefore, the scientists do that observations, they do the experiment, and they will come on to conclusion. Therefore, basically, it is a process of knowledge, gaining knowledge, investigating, making observation, posing questions, and testing through experimentation. Therefore, it is a cycle. Basically, if you see that, okay, I got the message to see that full screen, and I do not know why it's not showing it. Let me see if I can show the full screen. Okay. Can you see now full screen?
Yes, that's
Okay,
fine.
sorry about that. That's why I was asking if everything is good. Okay. That scientific methods is an ongoing process in which we basically think of interesting questions, we formulate hypotheses, we develop testable predictions. Of course, we refine, expand, or reject hypotheses, and then gather the data, and then, of course, come up with theories. Therefore, this is the whole circle of the science. And this is what the scientists do. They make very interesting observation, hypotheses, do some testing, predictions, and then come up with a conclusion. Therefore, how the scientists play an important role in a very important role in that food, halal food and certification. If you can see that our food is global. What that means? That means a food can be grown in one country. It can be then shipped in another country. And then also it has gone to another country which they have processed and of course added some value. And then it goes to another country where they will make the finished product. Then it will come back to a Muslim country. If we have no idea about if that food is halal and how we're going to identify that. And I give you a few examples. First example is I'm going to give you, as I said, our food is global, and I'm showing you just a vegetarian pizza. And you can see that in this case, we have a different products like olives that may have flown around 5,000 miles. We have tomatoes that may have flown 2,900 miles. We have also red onions that may have flown 3,000 miles, peppers, wheat, mushrooms. And if you are a scientist, you will know that you cannot ship that product as fresh. What that means that you have to process, blanch some of the mushrooms before you can ship it. And basically, I have seen the facilities where they're processing mushrooms on the same facility. I'm still getting the message that my slide is not showing properly. I don't know if it's not showing. You know, I hope this is better.
Yeah, your slide is only partially seen in the screen.
Okay. I
yes,
have no idea.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. And you can see that if you process that, basically mushrooms on the facility, which may have used a non-halal ingredients that cause some concern to us. Therefore, it is, even though a vegetarian pizza, but it may have some concern for that. And here is the example of a chicken nuggets. And you will be surprised to see that how many countries are involved in making a one chicken nuggets. In this case, you can have a chicken meats may come from Brazil. A vegetable fat may have come from United Arab Emirates or maybe from Canada. You have a stabilizer come from Germany. You have spices come from India, salt from Germany, dextrins from China, flavor enhancer from India, emulsifier from Spain, textured vegetable protein coming from India, and wheat flours may come from United Arab Emirates, Canada, Australia, Pakistan, Paraguay, milk powder from Finland, and breadcrumbs from UK. Therefore, these are 15 different countries that are involved making one chicken nuggets that we consume. And this is the dilemma for our Muslim consumer. In old times, when life was very simple, we used to have just the water and the wheat flour, and we will make our bread. But now we have more than 40 different ingredients to make one bread. And what are the status of these ingredients? That's where the science is going to help us. How the science is helping us? We know that gelatin, I'm going to talk few ingredients. Most common ingredients we use in the food industry is gelatin. And you can see that gelatin is a unbeatable advantages in the food industry. We use that all the times in all the food applications, and they play a very important role. And gelatin sources could be coming from pork, coming from pig, coming from bovines, and it is the science who is going to help us to find out if this is beef gelatin or is from the pork gelatin. Therefore, we have to trust the scientist. We have to work with the scientist to help us to identify what is the source of this gelatin. Also, now we have a lot of synthetic production of gelatin have been started by the scientists, where basically extracting the DNA and they are getting a gene cloning, and then of course transformations and replications, and they are trying to make this gelatin synthetically, which can solve a lot of problems. Therefore, basically, it's the scientists and the science who's going to solve a lot of our issues in halal food. Another example, we all know we use alcohol in our food production, and we use that one extraction different flavors. We use that in beverage industry, we use in the cooking industry, and this is the major part of the flavor. And if you know that the flavor can be hundreds and hundreds of different ingredients put together, and then you will have a one flavor, and you can call it natural flavor. But what is inside, it is basically the scientist who will analyze and let us know how much alcohol is that in the flavor. Therefore, basically, it is again science who's going to help us to identify different level of alcohol. Also, I'm sure you are aware of that. There's a lot of different fat blends that food industry makes to make either a specific profiles or getting a very specific flavors of the fries or any other fry product. These blend can be from tallow, they can be from lard, it can be from a lot of different sources. And how do we know that? What kind of fat we're being used? Once again, it is that our scientist, it is the science who's going to help us to identify that what kind of fatty acids are on this. We are using it in this our frying. And I'm sure we also heard about earlier, there are a lot of adulterations take place maybe because of economic reasons, and people are turning pork into beef, How would you know that? The only way you know that by, again, the scientist who will do a DNA analysis and who will let us know if there is the port contamination or not. Then, of course, we also develop a lot of different other ingredients, mostly the chemicals, and we can take basically something from the pig, and then we can further process, and we come up with a lot of different chemicals. And how do we know that where this chemical coming from? And once again, it is the science who's going to help us to identify the sources, because as I mentioned, our food is global. You have no idea where it's been processed, and you have no idea where it's been again added into different products. And it is only the science who will help that halal food industry to identify the sources of these ingredients, the level of these ingredients they are using it. Therefore, science help us on each steps when you make a halal product. We just heard briefly about synthetic, or you would call it cell-grown meat from our previous speakers. And once again, what is the science who can help us or explain to the religious scholars the how this food is being made, so that we can basically find out the status if this is halal or not. It will be basically scientists who will talk about what is in it. We heard very briefly, and basically I will also talk to give you some overview what is the clean meat and how it's being produced and what is in it. And basically, clean meat, as previous speaker mentioned, is referred that which is the cell which is grown in the petri dish rather than slaughtering animals. We do not slaughter animals, and we grow these cells in the lab, and you will find it in the literatures. It's been called culture meat, synthetic meats, in vitro meats, vat-grown meat, and several other terms, that we are taking these cells and we are making this meat. And what is the status of that? Who's going to help the halal food industry? It's the scientists who will tell us, the scholars, what techniques we are using it, how we are regenerating this cell culture meat artificially and with the cell technology, using the animal biopsies rather than obtaining it from the animal slaughtering process. Therefore, they are the one who will give us the fatwa if this is halal or not, if this is halal suitable or not. Therefore, basically, this process use the same techniques that being used to regenerate some of the medicines. And we use these cells and we grow that in the lab. And basically, how it works, you take the tissue, you have these stem cells extracted, then you have culture media, and then you grow that. But it's not that simple. It takes a lot of efforts, and we have no idea how the media, what kind of media we use, what kind of cell we have used, and what other things we have used there. Of course, there are a lot of benefits as well, as previous speaker mentioned, but I will go mostly that we can design our own nutrition for that consumers who have some health issues. We can design our own fat contents. We can design our own fatty acid by manipulating this different composition of that. Therefore, basically, you can change profiles to monosaturated, to the polyunsaturated, to the trans fat. If we can supplement all different kind of fats to make it very unique kind of meat for our consumer. But is this halal? How the science is going to help us? This is the challenge comes up. Clean meat may be still considered unnatural or Frankenstein food by the consumer, or may consider a genetically modified organism. But problem is, you like it or not, it is coming. It was very expensive when I checked last time, 2013. On 2018, it's around $12 a pound. And lately I saw that it is around $5 a pound. Therefore, it is coming. You want it or you don't want it. Therefore, we need to work as a scientist to let our religious scholar know that how this meat is being produced. So these religious scholars can help to give us a fatwa, let us know if this meat is halal or not. And future is coming where instead of you go to a butcher market, you will go a place and you can basically pick up your own animals and they will have their cells and you will grow that. You can have a hens, you can have cook, you can have a cattle, and basically you can design your own meat. The question is this meat is halal? Who is going to tell the religious people or Muslim consumers? There are a lot of halal organizations in USA. They are discussing that one, and there's a long way to go. There's many things to consider and talk about it. This is a lot of Muslims are still skeptical. This meat is not halal. How the science is going to help? How are we going to help that? This is the challenge that we're going to see that here the scientist comes in. We also heard lately the vaccine, and you will hear a lot of news. Is it halal or not? Who is going to make a decision that? It is the scientist who will decide, who will tell every step how the vaccine is being made and give it that to religious scholars where they will decide if this is halal or not. Therefore, the scientist is the one who take different ingredients and who develop different products, and then of course they develop different vaccines. And what is the process? Religious scholars sometimes have limited knowledge about the science. They may have a lot of knowledge about their religious, the fatwas and religious knowledge, but they may not have knowledge of the science. Therefore, it is the scientist who will help explain step by step of the each process. Vaccine, even Texas A&M, we have a vaccine in our snack food, where instead of anybody taking this vaccine, we can give them some kind of corn puff, and they can use that corn puff and they can actually consume that as a hepatitis B vaccine. This is halal? If this is not halal, we are the one as a scientist will have to explain the process of this vaccine manufacturing to that our religious scholars who will help to decide the status of halal and halal certifications. Role of the science in developing some of that halal ingredients, halal amino acids. I talk about gelatin, I talk about alcohol, talk about some other things, but also some other essential some of that amino acids, especially that we know the L-cysteine. Just one example I can give you that. We know the source of L-cysteines come from that animal hairs or the animal's feathers. On the other hand, we can create synthetic L-cysteine that's available and also used mostly to create halal product. Therefore, science will play a very important role in identifying the ingredients of halal and also helping halal certifying agencies to see the sources where they're coming from. There are a lot of verification program, lab analysis versus halal traceability via certification. That's where the science can come and help. We can basically have a barcode and we can check here to see and scan that, and we can trace where that cattle was slaughtered, who raised this cattle, and of course what was fed to the cattle, which farm it was born. We can do a backward or we can do a forward traceabilities. Therefore, it is the scientist who is going to help, and it's the scientist who is going to explain the process step by step for each of these products. We cannot just believe whatever you read or you see it on the internet. You may see a lot of crazy information. And as a scientist, we have to explain that process, that science helps to make sure that our food sources are halal and tayyib. What that means, a lot of people think that the GMO products may not be halal. GMO products are not tayyibs. As long as they're coming from the halal source, as long as they are coming from a tayyib source and they are giving a benefit to the human, they are halal. We have to explain the process. Just to give you an idea, that top 10 genetically modified foods corn, soy, cotton, papaya, rice, peas, we use every single day. We use corn product almost on every food items. We use soy in every food items. We use some other ingredients all the times. And when you look at the whole world map, they are grown all over the world. And therefore, what is that in the internet say that GMO products may not be a tayyib, may not be halal? Well, as a scientist, we have to explain the process to our religious scholars. You believe me or not, we consume every day 30,000 different ingredients that has been processed from the GMO based crops and ingredients. To give you an example of that, you just take the cereals. In this case, you have this just simple cereals. I highlighted all these highlighted product. They are genetically modified. They are halal and tayyib. Yes, they are halal and tayyib as long as the source was halal. Therefore, science is helping us on every stage for the halal certification. Science is helping us to explain these things to all the religious scholars. Here I give you another example, a role of the science in developing a halal enzyme. I don't know if you remember or not, the first GMO product that received regulatory approval 1990 was chymosin. That's an enzyme that produced by genetically engineering bacteria. If you know that, you have to use a rennet and you have to have it from calf slaughter animals. And then, of course, there was not that much availability of the rennet. And people will contaminate that with the pork-based bacteria enzyme. And that's where they have set up this and they use this one and they're growing the bacteria and they made it new microbial enzymes that revolutionized that cheese industry. Now, in the US, we have around 80% of the dairy industry who use this microbial-based enzyme. It's cost less, and of course, it have a high cheese yield efficiency. Therefore, to conclude that, to just give you an idea, I mean, I have only 20 minutes. I can give you a lot of other examples, but you can go from one ingredients to other ingredients. The only way we will find out that is halal or not is the science who's going to help us. It is the scientists who can do the analysis, identify the DNA, identify the ingredients, identify the sources. Therefore, to conclude that, science play a very important role in halal food production. They are the one who work in the lab and examine these ingredients. They are the one who check all the status of all kind of culture meat, every meat to see how it was grown, how it was processed. They have to look into that also. Some of that treatment we go to the animals, they looked in the processing and they remove all the confusion, because a lot of people like to confuse everybody. They put a lot of information on the internet, but it's the science who can help and who can basically let everybody know what is right, what is wrong. Therefore, the science play a very important role in halal certification. With that, thank you very much. And I will be very happy to answer any question we may have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Mayan. And I think we go to the next speaker. We have half an hour. So I'll introduce the next speaker is Dr. Najwa. And she's a researcher in the Halal Science Center, Chulalongkorn University. And she's in area of expertise is in halal science, food product development, food biotechnology, molecular biology, and plant tissue culture. And she has got a PhD in biomedical science from Chulalongkorn University. So without further ado, I'll request Dr. Najwa to proceed with your presentation. Unmute, please. Unmute your microphone. Dr. Najwa, can you unmute your microphone? We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, greeting from Thailand. Hope you are all doing fine. Today, let me share with you about food innovation in times of COVID-19 crisis and opportunity for transformation. So the food consumption behavior have been, The food consumption behavior have been changed after COVID-19. The consumer are looking for the better diet, which is aim to boost the immune system. So everyone should have access to nutritious to help them pursue healthier and happier behavior. And the product should be traceability so that the consumer can be checked for the status of the products, and the greater transparency within the functional sector is also growing market trend, which rising the demand for organic, eco-friendly and clean label health, and also allowing the consumer to have greater control over their well-being. So why diet is important? Sorry. Can you see my slide?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. So it is important to have strong immune system to protect body against disease. So the immune is mechanism that protect our bodies from foreign invaders such as bacteria, virus, and other pathogen. So without a well functioning immune system, uh, even uh, even the some susceptible disease can be harmful to the health, as you can see in the figure. So it is very important for us to have some immune system booster, like zinc, vitamin A, iron, and vitamin B6 and vitamin C. Why this is important? Because like for zinc, it's important for wound healing. Uh, we can find this zinc in the samples such as whole grain and seafood. And vitamin E help protect cells from oxidative stress. For example, like avocado plant. And for vitamin A, it helps regulate our immune response, such as carrot and red bell peppers. And for the iron, it is for non-specific immunity, for its first mechanism for the defense of the body. And for the vitamin C, is protect cell from the oxidative stress. And you can find vitamin C in many products such as guava, acelera cherries. And for vitamin B6, it's very important in support reaction involved in our immune system. So you can find the vitamin B6 in green vegetable or cold fish, cold water fish such as salmon. Interestingly, the prophetic medicinal plant have high potential for developing an innovative functional food product suitable for a new normal lifestyle. So black cumin on Achila sativa is one of herbal plant which is utilized in the folk medicine for a century. So it is native to Mediterranean region and commonly cultivated in Pakistan and India. Once a prophet said, take note of this black grain, it contains healing for every illness except death. So thus it's not surprisingly that in Islamic medicine, the black cumin has been advised to apply daily, as it is considered as one of the superior forms of therapeutic medicine available. So the And for the avocado, avocado is known as superfood with numerous health benefits. It has been used for medicinal purpose for thousands of years, and is suggested to help everything from the common cold to the kidney stone. So this oil help lower low density lipoprotein, and such as is just known as a bad cholesterol. And avocado oil is also has high in vitamin E and potassium, which keep the blood vessel healthy by eliminating free radical, which will be harmful to the cell. And right now, the demand of avocado is expected to increase continuously due to the demand all around the world. So this is some example of food development derived from avocado. So you can see that there is some snack coming from avocado. So this crispy snack is coming from the freeze-dry technology, which simply seasoned with the sea salt and spice. So the nutritious new line is a vegan and keto, gluten-free, and non-GMO, high fiber and sugar-free. And surprisingly, most of people always concerned about the avocado fruits, but actually there is avocado tree, which are new entry of new formulation for the food innovation, because it also have some finding from by researcher that the leaf may be the most beneficial part of the avocado tree. And for the garlic, this is some benefit of garlic, which is boost metabolism, assist the toxification, cure acidic food, and anti-inflammatory properties, effective against painkiller, and also cure respiratory problem, and also relieve stress and blood clot activator. So this is an example of product coming from garlic. Actually, there are a lot of example coming from garlic, like mayonnaise, and also this one is the new product from garlic. Is a breadstick coming from garlic. And the other thing is very surprisingly, for this trend of food in 2020, acai bowl is one of the famous super breakfast nowadays. Acai bowl is come from the acai berry grown in the acai palm tree in South American rainforest. Is originating in Brazil. This bowl is arrived from frozen acai palm fruit and served as a smoothie in a bowl of glass. So this acai bowl contain many antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds such as alpha tocopherol and anthocyanin. And this is one of another food product which is implementing the freeze-dry technology after harvesting from Amazon forest in order to retain the nutritious value of the fruits. Sorry. And another product which is launched in the global market is this is a Botanic Beverage mix, which is coming from Singapore. It comprises of the compounds such as cold pressed cumin seed oil, which is rich in thymoquinone, and also coming from black raspberry seed, rich in antioxidant compounds such as anthocyanin, and it also coming from red grape seed and cranberry, which have a potential as antimicrobial activity, and also rich in tocopherol and tocotrienol. This is another product launched in UK. This chai tea comprised of black Assam tea with 40% turmeric along with ginger, fenugreek, cinnamon, and psyllium. And next, this is functional wellness shot, which is selling in US. And this is they have 4 type of the shot using for different purpose, like the shot for your liver, soreness, immunity, and the skin. And each shot is made 100% natural, contain no GMO. And it could notice that most of the functional product nowadays, they tend to be like zero sugar or zero calorie. So it's for the healthier lifestyle. And by eating this natural, products, you can boost your immune system. And even Ferrero company has working with the Eat Natural company in order to produce cereal bar, muesli, and granola. And this natural bar is a snack and breakfast cereal without preservative. And following this acquisition, Ferrero plans to support the company to expand the new market and category to distribute to other part of the world. And it's also focused more on healthier snack to fulfill the evolving need and trend for consumers. And this is the other drink, sparkling immunity can water, which have many flavor. And lastly, although we have to develop a new food product, one thing that we have need to concern is the status of the halal food ingredient added in the products. So this is how halal science support food industry. As we need to concern as an innovator that all raw material used in the new innovative product should be halal. As the Muslim is a majority of the population in the world, so it's very important that you have to concern about Muslim consumer as well. So the halal status of the product still need to be monitored from the beginning, from the raw material process and during processing and during logistic retailing, because the food product is not only for Muslim, so this has to be quality, and this product produced is not only for Muslim, but halal is for all. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you. Okay, I hope to see you again next year, inshallah.
Thank you. Inshallah. We have 3 speakers that finished their presentation. And just to recap, the first speaker, Prof. Nazima, she was talking about cultured meat. And I think there's a big issue on this thing. And the second speaker, Prof. Mian, he was talking about the role of science in halal production and certification. And our young scientist, Dr. Najwa, she talks about food innovation post-COVID. So I think we have got some questions. I wonder, does the speakers can see the questions on your screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to point out which questions to be answered first. So I think this is the first question to Prof. Nazima. So can Prof. Nazima answer this question?
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I agree that this consumer perception will vary with different cultural groups, ethnic groups, and countries. As I didn't mention that there's been a lot of studies on consumer perception towards cultured meat, but it's mainly been in the United States, and they've also been quite a bit in Europe, especially in Belgium. There are cross-cultural studies where they compared consumers in America, China, and India. But what I found was indeed there was a gap when looking at the perception of Muslim consumers specifically. And Muslim consumers can vary with different countries as well. So yes, I would agree with your comment that there should be surveys done, with in other countries. In fact, I'm running one in New Zealand now, and we're looking at the different cultures within New Zealand. So it'll be a more cross-cultural studies. But I also welcome collaboration with others to investigate perceptions of Muslims in other countries, because that can be a really nice paper. I think it's really good to share with the world that Muslims have special requirements when it comes to the use of a new technology like this, just like how Professor Mian Riaz is presented in his presentation.
The second question also related to.
Oh, the second question was about regarding the use of blood that is used in growing the cells. In fact, that was in one of my slides. So this is another concern amongst consumers, not just the source of the cell, but the media, the culture media. And often, you're right, they use blood. This is very well covered in a paper by Hamdan et al. In 2018. So if you need more information, I can email that paper to whoever asked me this question. I mean, I've got that paper, and he covers the Hadith and the Quran, and to explain the process of istihala, when it comes to the removal of the serum. So that wasn't the point of my research, but it's really, really interesting, because I looked at the consumer's point of view. And yes, consumers are indeed very, concerned about the use of serum. But that is a really good paper by some Malaysian researchers and they worked with Mark Post. Mark Post is, I think, a professor in the UK, if not mistaken, or Maastricht, or Europe, I'm not sure. But yeah, they've been collaborating with those people. So thank you for the questions. Very, very good questions.
Okay, next we have a question for Dr. Najwa.
Yes.
Can you take this question? Yeah. What should we be concerned developing halal innovation in response to COVID-19 era?
Okay,
Najwa?
yes. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, that good dietary is attributed to strong immunity. So we have to concern not just only the status of the halal, but we have to concern that the food that we are going to developing is the food which is superfood and has the therapeutic dose which can be used to boost your immune system. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Next question is for the Prof. Mian. Can you answer this question?
Yes. The role of the science in that halal food productions. I think I mentioned that we have very, very major issue right now with the vaccine. If this vaccine is halal or not halal. And this is the scientist who's going to explain the process to make sure that is our halal. And also the scientists are coming up with the new different products, especially in this post-COVID era, which is have more immunities, more nutritions, that because people are not doing a lot of exercise, they're not going outside. Therefore, they want to make sure that food is not only halal, as Dr. Najwa mentioned, but also it has a lot of immunity. Therefore, the science is still playing a very important role. I have seen a lot of innovations came up just recently. People are working and at homes, and they are basically inventing a lot of products so that people cannot be stressed out. They cannot, if they're going to go exercise, they can, take this product at home. Therefore, science is playing a major role, and no question about that.
Thank you. We have some questions from the audience. I think it's for Prof. Nazima.
Oh,
Can you answer this one?
which one is this?
Do you think that this sort of survey is necessary in different countries? This audience, huh?
Oh yeah, I sort of answered that. Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's been widely carried out in the US and, like I said, in Europe, but not as many in the Southeast Asia or Asian regions. So I think there is a gap definitely to address there. So I welcome people to work collaboratively and produce more work in this area, because before you produce a food, you need to know what consumers' needs are, what their wants, what are they fearful of before we go ahead and develop. So these are important studies to carry out before getting into when we are thinking of cultured meat.
Well, I'm sorry. It seems that the questions have been repeated.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so
Thought I answered it.
New questions, and before we end this session, probably I'd like to discuss or give some questions also.
Oh.
Is it allowed?
Yeah.
Okay, my first issue is on the what do you call things that is related to the what do you call cultured meat, and I think, as you have pointed out, there's studies already done by many researchers and publications on. So the issue that is of hand is basically, I think, in terms of the animal byproduct. That means when you say a meat that is produced in the lab, and then you have to tag it with an animal. So I think that is the area of concern. And later on, they will ask about whether the animal has been properly slaughtered and so on, or is a halal animal in the first place. The issue of concern now is that, can we look at a different angle whereby it's a product of animals as what we see in products of plants and so on, that has been produced synthetically in labs, and do we need a different sort of morality or rules pertaining to such things? Can Prof. Nazima probably discuss this thing?
Okay, yeah, that's interesting, because the other alternative that people would go for without being doubtful would be the plant-based meat. So we have products in New Zealand and they call it chicken meat, but it's just plant source. I think with cultured meat, because you use cells, and that's the only way to go. Using either adult stem cells or embryonic stem cells. The source of the cell is so important, and that was brought up by the researchers in Malaysia, Hamdan et al. And I when I came across that paper, it made me think. But it's quite interesting also that when I carried out the survey, people are wanting to know what the source is, whether it's procured from a live animal. So you can see that consumers are concerned already, although they don't have much knowledge about it, but this is already in their mind. So it's not, going to be easy for a product like this to enter the Muslim markets, because
Dr.
Yeah,
Zari, can I add something?
yeah.
Okay. Basically, that there is a lot of strong lobby of the meat industry in the USA. You will never be able to call it meat. You call it meat or beef or chicken to any of the synthetic or the culture meat. They will call it different names. You have to call it like you have a made from plant-based, they call it impossible burger. They call it vegetarian burgers. They do not call it beef burger. Similarly, you will not be able to call any of this meat as a animal-based meat. You have to call a different name as cultured meat or some other meats. Therefore, there's a lot of strong lobbies for that meat industry. Like it's the same as milk. You got the soy milk. You cannot call it milk. You have to call it soy milk, or you call it something else. Similarly, you have a lot of alternatives of a lot of different products, but you cannot call the same name. Therefore, it is coming up soon, but it will be labeled as culture meat. They will have something else on the meat, but it has the same taste, same flavor, but you will be written there somehow. You will not be able to call just the meat to confuse the people.
Yeah, I think this is a very important issue because for the ulama to make a decision, they need to be enlightened on these specific things.
Yes.
Issues like last time we have this halal beer. Well, of course, they say there's no alcohol in it, but still it's called a beer, and that's what is that they cannot accept this thing. For Dr. Prof. Mian,
Yes.
Can I discuss something with you on the setting up of halal standards in the food industry? Can it solve the problem of the final product being halal? We set up the initial halal standards for whatever meat or whatever ingredients on, and then those who want to have halal at the end product, they have to make sure that all the ingredients that they put in have complied to the halal standards that is universally accepted. What's your take?
Well, if you are a two family member in the house, they have different opinions. Husband is different, wife is different. If you have children, then you have three opinions in the house. Unfortunately, Muslim will be never together with the same opinion. We have four school of thoughts, and we are a follower of that. If you go to Saudi Arabia, they have different school of thoughts. You go to Indonesia, Malaysia, they have different school of thoughts. You go to Pakistan, they are very strict. In 1 hour, I'm giving talk in food additives, where we're going to talk about something from the insects, where 80% HGCB accept that, but some of that halal certified body do not accept the color. Therefore, we were the time the prophet, as long as this time the prophet was died, we have start our opinion, different opinions started there. Therefore, there's going to be always different opinions for all the Muslims. There's no way we can get together, but there's a solution for that. We can make one universal standards that we have been talking about it, and then of course keep modifying it the need of each countries. We can go to each country, what are the import requirements are. Have you seen the level of alcohols in different countries you can export? Some is 0%, some is 0.1, some is 0.5, some is 0.6, one is 1%, one is 5%. Each country have different opinions. They have their own school of thoughts. They have a right of their opinion. Similarly, there is no way we can have one standard which everybody can follow it. Some of that country will not accept ever stunning. Some of the, like Pakistan, will never accept the stunning. But in the US, we are living here, we have to accept the stunning because that's the law of the land. Some people will never accept also machine slaughter. We cannot have Muslim slaughter here. Therefore, there is going to be always different opinions for everything. The best thing is to make one universal standard if everybody want to follow that, and then of course keep modifying it step by step for each country, for the importing country to fulfill their demand. Otherwise, it's not possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. So ultimately, we try to have a universal sort of compromise whereby it is harmonized with all the various mazhab and so on. And I think that's the future for the food industry, for the halal food industry, to have a harmonized standard for us to produce products that are acceptable to whatever mazhab.
Well, then, that funny thing is that I work with the food industry all the times.
Okay.
And they are basically sometimes surprised that one product is accepted in Indonesia, one is rejected in Malaysia. Then one of their products accepted in Saudi Arabia, but rejected in United Arab Emirates. Then one of the certifying body have certified the product, one to United Arab Emirates. And basically, Dubai rejected it, Sharjah accepted it.
Okay.
On the same country. Therefore, it's all depend upon who you are talking with. And therefore, it is very, very hard.
Okay. But anyway, I think we have to make an effort.
Yes.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. For probably the last, speaker, Dr. Najwa, I agree with you that the foods are meant for us to improve our immune system because of the fact that many of the drugs that are being used for the sake of this COVID-19 and so on, many of them have problems in dealing with our immune system. They suppress. In fact, many people die because our immune system has gone very low. So it is totally important that I think for post-COVID food products have to stress for especially on the immune system. Do you have any sort of standards for this sort of products, for food materials? Najwa?
Yes. I don't get your question.
Okay. Basically, they are immune booster foods.
Uh-huh.
You have mentioned several and so on.
Yes.
Do they have sort of standards? Which of these items and what sort of specifications, what sort of quality that is needed to make sure that these items they really boost your immune system?
Actually, based on my knowledge, so in order to add any type of plant material in the product, you have to see their therapeutic dose first and how they which dose is not toxic to the humans. So every plant they have different therapeutic dose used in different humans, and also it depends on the human's body weight as well. So it has many variety, and even in some compounds which is the same compounds, but in different study, they also have different therapeutic dose. So we have to check before the list, before we want to pursue our products, and we have to make sure that the product that we are going to use is safe to be used in the humans. So right now, I don't have the standard, specific standard for any of the products. But in the future, of course, before I'm going to do the new products, I have to check the therapeutic dose and the safety assessment of each product first. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think the time is up now. In my country is around 1:10,
Yes.
and I think I'll now give the mic to the secretariat. So thank you very much for your all your cooperation, and I thoroughly enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much for a great presentation. Thank you all speakers. Thank you moderator, Professor Dr. Zahari Ismail. Thank you. Remind again to all participants, please fill out the online evaluation from which scan QR code on the right hand side of the screen, or click link in chat board of Zoom or link in Facebook Live. Okay, now it is time for lunch break and Zuhri prayer, and the conference will resume at 2 p.m. I will see you in 1 hour and a half later. Thank you.